My name is Eric Dunham, and I'm about to tell you how my 39th birthday became the best, worst day of my life. I'm an IT manager in Cedar Falls, Iowa, population 12,000, where everyone knows everyone's business except, apparently, their own spouse's extracurricular activities. The birthday dinner was Julia's idea. My wife of 17 years insisted we celebrate at Romano's, the fanciest restaurant in our little town, which isn't saying much. The pasta's decent, the wine's overpriced, and the lighting's dim enough to hide the disappointment in married couples' eyes. "Happy birthday, Dad," Kayla said, sliding a card across the red checkered tablecloth. My 16-year-old daughter's voice carried all the enthusiasm of someone reading a grocery list. The card said, "To Eric," in her handwriting. Not Dad, not Daddy, just Eric. Like I was some guy she barely knew. "Thanks, kiddo." I forced a smile. Tucking the card into my jacket pocket, something was off. Kayla had been distant for months, but tonight felt different, cold, calculated. Julia raised her wine glass, her blonde hair catching the restaurant's amber light. "To my wonderful husband, 39 years of being amazing." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. After 17 years of marriage, you learn to read the signs, the forced cheerfulness, the way she checked her phone every few minutes, the expensive new dress she'd worn for a simple birthday dinner. "Thanks, babe." I clinked my glass against hers, watching her face. "You look beautiful tonight." "New dress? This old thing?" She laughed, but her fingers fidgeted with her wedding ring. "I've had it forever." Liar. The tags were probably still in her purse. Dinner dragged on with stilted conversation about Kayla's junior year, my latest IT project at the county office, Julia's work at the insurance company. Normal family stuff that felt anything but normal. They kept exchanging glances when they thought I wasn't looking. Quick, meaningful looks that made my stomach churn. "Present time," Julia announced as the waiter cleared our plates. She produced a small wrapped box with theatrical flourish. Inside was a navy blue tie. Conservative. Boring. The kind of gift you buy when you've forgotten someone's birthday until the last minute. "It's perfect," I lied, holding up the tie. "Very professional. I thought you could wear it to work." Julia's smile was brittle. "You know how important image is." My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. "Check your email. You deserve to know. A friend." "Who's texting?" Julia asked, her voice sharp. "Probably work." I pocketed the phone. Nothing important. But my hands were shaking as I cut my birthday cake. Chocolate with vanilla frosting. My favorite since childhood. Julia remembered that much, at least. The email was waiting when we got home. No subject line, just a video file attachment and a message. "Recorded this morning on your security camera. I'm sorry you have to see this, but you needed to know." I waited until Julia and Kayla went upstairs, Julia to shower, Kayla to her room, before clicking play. The video opened on our living room, our couch, our coffee table with Julia's favorite magazine scattered across it. Morning light streamed through the windows, and I could see the timestamp, 9:47 a.m., this morning, while I was at work. Julia walked into frame wearing her silk robe, the one I'd bought her for Christmas. She wasn't alone. Travis Jordan followed her, his hands already reaching for the robe's belt. Travis T.J. Jordan, her high school boyfriend, the hometown football hero who'd never quite made it out of Cedar Falls. Now he sold real estate and drove a restored Camaro like he was still 17. I should have turned it off, should have deleted the file and pretended I'd never seen it. Instead, I watched my wife of 17 years kiss another man in our living room, watched her untie that silk robe and let it fall to our hardwood floor. "God, I've missed this," Julia moaned as Travis pushed her back onto our couch. "Eric never makes me feel like this." My hands clenched into fists. The tie she'd given me, that practical boring tie, suddenly felt like a noose around my neck. But the worst was yet to come. The video kept rolling as they finished, as Julia curled against Travis's chest on our couch. That's when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Kayla appeared in the frame, fully dressed, backpack slung over her shoulder. "Morning, Mom. Morning, TJ." Not surprised, not shocked. Like this was routine. Travis grinned, pulling on his shirt. "Hey there, kiddo. Ready for school?" "Yeah, but I wanted to ask you something first." Kayla dropped her backpack and moved closer to the couch. "Are you really going to marry Mom after the divorce? My blood turned to ice. That's the plan, Travis said, ruffling her hair. How do you feel about that? Kayla actually hugged him, and looked up with a smile I hadn't seen on her face in months. I think it's perfect. I wish you were my dad instead of Eric. You're so much cooler, and you actually care about what I want. The words hit me like a physical blow. My own daughter. My little girl who used to beg me to read her bedtime stories, who'd cried when I had to work late, who'd made me Father's Day cards with crayon handprints. Well, Travis said, maybe that can be arranged sooner than you think. They all laughed, my wife, her lover, and my daughter, laughing about replacing me, planning my removal from their lives like I was some inconvenient obstacle. The video ended with Kayla grabbing her backpack and heading out the door, calling, "Love you, TJ," over her shoulder. I sat in my home office, staring at the black screen, my birthday cake sitting untouched on the kitchen counter. Upstairs, I could hear Julia moving around, probably getting ready for bed. Our bed. The bed where she'd been lying to me every night for God knows how long. 39 years old, and I'd just learned that my entire life was a lie. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. The security camera footage goes back 6 months. This isn't the first time. I thought you should know before you waste any more years. 6 months, maybe longer. While I'd been working overtime to pay for Kayla's car, Julia's shopping trips, the family vacation to Colorado last summer, they'd been planning my replacement. I opened my laptop and started typing. Not an angry email or a confrontational text, something much more permanent. A Google search. Best divorce lawyers in Cedar Falls, Iowa. It was still my birthday. I had 2 hours left before midnight. Time enough to make this the day everything changed. I didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Julia's face as Travis touched her. Heard Kayla's voice saying she wished I wasn't her father. By 3 a.m., I'd watched the security footage 3 more times, taking notes like I was preparing for a deposition. Which, I realized, I was. The details were devastating. Julia still wore her wedding ring during love. Travis had brought coffee, my favorite brand, from the kitchen. They'd used our bathroom afterward, like they owned the place. And Kayla had known. Not just known, but approved or participated. I made a list of everything I'd observed, time-stamped, and documented. 17 years of marriage had taught me to be thorough, but 20 years in IT had taught me to be systematic. This wasn't just heartbreak anymore. This was data collection. At 5:30 a.m., I showered and dressed for work. Julia was still sleeping, her blonde hair spread across her pillow, one hand resting where my chest should have been. She looked peaceful, innocent, the lying witch. "Morning, honey," she mumbled as I grabbed my keys. "You're up early. Big day at the office." I kissed her forehead, tasting betrayal on my lips. "Love you. Love you too." The words felt like acid in my mouth. Instead of driving to the county office, I headed straight to Patterson and Associates, the law firm that had handled my parents' estate. Margaret Patterson had a reputation for being thorough, discreet, and absolutely ruthless when necessary. "Eric Dunham," she said, shaking my hand in her oak-paneled office. "I haven't seen you since your father's funeral. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances." I'd called ahead, explained the situation in broad terms. Now I handed her a flash drive containing the security footage and my documented observations. "I need to file for divorce immediately," I said. "Today, if possible." Margaret was 60-something, silver-haired, with the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. She watched the video without flinching, taking notes in precise handwriting. "This is definitive," she said finally. "And how long has this been going on?" "At least 6 months, according to my source. Possibly longer." "And your daughter knows?" "She's actively participating, encouraging it." The words tasted bitter. "She told him she wishes he was her father instead of me." Margaret nodded, already pulling forms from her filing cabinet. "Iowa is a no-fault divorce state, but adultery can still impact property division and custody arrangements. With evidence this clear, we can move quickly." "How quickly?" "Papers filed by noon. She'll be served this afternoon." I spent the morning in Margaret's office, signing documents and making lists. Joint bank accounts to freeze. Credit cards to cancel. Insurance policies to modify. The methodical destruction of a 17-year marriage, reduced to paperwork and legal procedures. "What about custody?" Margaret asked. I thought of Kayla hugging Travis, her bright smile as she called him the father she wished she had. "She's 16. In Iowa, She can choose where to live. I stared out the window at the courthouse across the street. She's already made her choice. By 11 a.m., I was back home, Julia's car gone, Kayla at school. I had maybe 6 hours before the papers were served. 6 hours to prepare for the explosion that was coming. I started with the practical stuff. Changed the locks, all of them. Transferred my paycheck to a new account at a different bank. Canceled Julia's credit cards and removed her from our joint accounts. Called our insurance company and removed her as a beneficiary. Then I packed. Not everything, just the essentials. Clothes, important documents, my laptop, the watch my father had given me. I'd find a place to stay later, maybe Dave's couch, maybe a hotel. For now, I just needed to be ready to leave. The hardest part was Kayla's room. I stood in the doorway looking at the posters of boy bands and movie stars, the trophies from debate team, the photos of friends and family covering her mirror. In most of the family photos, she was standing closer to Julia than to me. Had I been blind to the signs, or had I just chosen not to see them? On her desk was a framed picture from last year's father-daughter dance at her school. We were both smiling, my arm around her shoulders, her hand resting on mine. She'd worn a blue dress that matched my tie, and we'd danced to Butterfly Kisses, while she rolled her eyes and pretended to be embarrassed. I wish you were my dad instead of Eric. I left the photo where it was and closed the door. At 3:47 p.m., my phone rang. Julia, screaming. What the heck is this, Eric? Divorce papers? Are you insane? I was sitting in my car outside Dave's apartment complex, watching normal people live their normal lives. I know about Travis. Silence. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. This morning, our couch, the silk robe I bought you for Christmas. My voice was steady, calm. It's training. When the system crashes, you don't panic. You fix it. I have it all on video, Julia. Everything. Eric, please, let me explain. Explain what? That you've been sleeping with your high school boyfriend in our house? That our daughter wishes I wasn't her father? That you've been planning to replace me for 6 months? It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I ended the call and turned off my phone. Dave answered his door with a beer in his hand and concern on his face. Dave Morrison had been my best friend since college, the best man at my wedding, Kayla's honorary uncle. If anyone would understand, it was Dave. Jesus, Eric, you look wrecked. What happened? I told him everything, showed him the video, watched his expression change from confusion to anger to disgust. That awful woman, he said finally. And Kayla, man, I'm sorry, I know how much you love that kid. Loved, past tense. I accepted the beer he offered. They made their choice. Now I'm making mine. You can stay here as long as you need. The couch pulls out, and I've got plenty of space. Thanks, it won't be for long. Just until I figure out what comes next. My phone had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages when I finally turned it back on. Julia, mostly, but also Kayla. Some unknown numbers, even a few from mutual friends who'd apparently heard the news. I deleted them all without reading them. At 8 p.m., someone started pounding on Dave's door. Julia's voice, high and desperate. I know he's in there. Eric, please. We need to talk. Dave looked at me. I shook my head. He doesn't want to see you, Julia, Dave called through the door. This is none of your business, Dave. Eric, please. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I opened the door. Julia stood there in jeans and a t-shirt, her makeup smeared, her hair disheveled. Behind her, looking uncomfortable, was Kayla. It didn't mean anything? I asked. 6 months of sleeping with another man in our house didn't mean anything? Planning to marry him after our divorce didn't mean anything? How did you... Julia's face went white. Security cameras. Amazing what technology can capture these days. I looked at Kayla, who was staring at her shoes. Did you want to say something, kiddo? Maybe explain why you told Travis you wished he was your father? Kayla's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock and fear. Dad, It's Eric now, remember? That's what you called me on your birthday card. Just Eric. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. I didn't mean it. I was just upset because you're always working and TJ listens to me and you decided he'd make a better father. I heard you, Kayla. I saw you hug him. I watched you smile when he said he'd marry your mother. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. You got your wish? He can be your father now. I'm done. Eric, please. Julia reached for me, but I stepped back. The locks are changed. The accounts are closed. The papers are filed. I looked at both of them, my wife, my daughter, the two people I'd loved most in the world. You wanted him? You got him. So don't contact me again. I closed the door on their shocked faces and turned off my phone. Dave was holding 2 beers and shaking his head. Wow, man, that was brutal. They earned it. I took the beer and collapsed onto his couch. Every single word. Outside, I could hear Julia's car starting, driving away, taking my old life with it. Good riddance. Word travels fast in a town of 12,000 people. By the end of the week, everyone knew Eric Dunham's wife had been cheating with Travis Jordan, and everyone had an opinion about it. The reactions split along predictable lines. Julia's friends, mostly other insurance company wives and PTA mothers, whispered about marriage troubles and how these things happen. Travis's buddies from high school, now middle-aged men reliving their glory days at Murphy's Bar, thought the whole thing was hilarious. TJ always gets what he wants, they said, like adultery was some kind of sport. But the people who mattered, the ones who'd known us as a family, who'd watched me coach Kayla's Little League team and volunteer at school fundraisers, they were pissed, really pissed. I always thought Julia was a cold fish, said Mrs. Patterson from 2 houses down. She cornered me at the grocery store, her voice carrying that particular mix of sympathy and gossip that small-town women perfect over decades. And that daughter of yours? Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? I should have defended Kayla. Should have said something about her being young, confused, manipulated by her mother. Instead, I just nodded and moved on to the cereal aisle. The hardest part wasn't the gossip or the stares. It was the friends I lost in the process. Mike and Sarah Chen had been our closest couple friends for over a decade. Double dates, backyard barbecues, family vacations to the lake. Mike worked with me at the county office, and Sarah had been Julia's maid of honor. When they invited me to coffee to talk, I knew what was coming. "We think you're being too harsh," Sarah said, stirring sugar into her latte with aggressive precision. "Marriage is complicated, Eric. People make mistakes." Mistakes? I stared at her across the table at Grind Coffee, the local cafe where we'd met countless times before. She slept with another man in our house for 6 months. Our daughter knew about it and encouraged it. That's not a mistake, Sarah. That's a choice. Mike shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Look, man, I get that you're hurt, but Kayla's just a kid. She doesn't understand what she's saying. She's 16, not 6. She knew exactly what she was saying when she told Travis she wished he was her father. You don't know the whole story," Sarah insisted. "Maybe Julia was lonely. Maybe you weren't meeting her emotional needs. Maybe you should stop talking." The words came out louder than I'd intended. The entire coffee shop went quiet, 20 conversations stopping mid-sentence, as everyone turned to stare at us. Sarah's face flushed red. "There's no need to be vulgar, Eric." "Vulgar?" I laughed, the sound bitter and harsh. "You want to know what's vulgar? Finding out your wife has been screwing her ex-boyfriend on the couch where you watch TV together every night. Discovering that your daughter thinks so little of you that she's actively helping plan your replacement. That's vulgar, Sarah." "Eric," Mike started, but I cut him off. "No, let me finish. You want to talk about emotional needs? I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for Julia's shopping trips and Kayla's car and our family vacations. I coached Little League on weekends. I fixed every broken appliance, painted every room, installed every light fixture in that house. And my reward was coming home to find my family planning my replacement." I stood up, throwing a $5 bill on the table. "You think I'm being too harsh? Then you don't know me at all. And if you're taking their side in this, then you never were my friends to begin with." I walked out of Grind Coffee and didn't look back. That night, Dave and I were drinking beer on his back porch when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw the show at the coffee shop today. Sarah Chen's been telling everyone you've lost your mind. Thought you should know." "A friend." "Same person who sent you the video?" Dave asked, reading over my shoulder. "Has to be. Someone who knows what's going on but doesn't want to get directly involved. Any idea who?" I thought about it. Someone with access to our house? Or at least our security system? Someone who knew about Julia's affair but hadn't told me directly. Someone who cared enough to document it but wanted to stay anonymous. Could be anyone. Neighbor, coworker, family member. Heck, could be Travis's wife for all I know. Dave nearly choked on his beer. Travis is married? Separated, last I heard. But yeah, technically married. Lisa Jordan works at the bank. I pulled up her Facebook profile on my phone. Look familiar? Dave studied the photo. A pretty brunette with tired eyes and a forced smile. Never seen her before. But if her husband's been screwing around with Julia, she'd have motive to expose it, especially if she's been documenting his affairs for a potential divorce. It made sense. Lisa Jordan would have access to Travis's schedule, would know when he was at our house. She might even have been following him, taking pictures, gathering evidence. The security camera footage could have been just one piece of a larger puzzle. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Check Travis's Facebook page posted an hour ago. I opened Facebook and navigated to Travis Jordan's profile. The most recent post was a photo of him and Julia at Romano's, the same restaurant where we'd celebrated my birthday just a week ago. They were holding hands across the table, both smiling, both wearing wedding rings. The caption read, "Sometimes love finds a way. Second chances, true love, non regrets." That's smug a hole, Dave muttered. He's flaunting it. I scrolled through the comments. Dozens of responses from their mutual friends, most supportive, some questioning, but one comment stood out. Posted just minutes ago. Lisa Jordan. Interesting choice of restaurant, TJ. Wasn't that where you took me for our anniversary last month? Before you decided you needed a break to figure things out? Cheater, liar, karma's coming. Well, I said, showing Dave the screen. Looks like Lisa Jordan isn't staying anonymous anymore. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I had a feeling I knew who it was. Hello? Eric, this is Lisa Jordan. I think we need to talk. Lisa Jordan looked exactly like her Facebook photos. Pretty, tired, and pissed off. We met at a diner outside town, neutral territory where neither of us was likely to run into mutual acquaintances. I sent you the video, she said without preamble, sliding into the booth across from me. I've been documenting Travis's affairs for 8 months. Your wife is just the latest. How many others? 3 that I know of, maybe more. Lisa pulled out her phone and showed me a folder labeled Evidence. Dozens of photos, videos, text message screenshots. I hired a private investigator after I found the first one. Turns out my husband has been very busy. I studied the photos. Travis with different women at various locations around town. Hotels, restaurants, even the back seat of his Camaro. A regular Don Juan of Cedar Falls. Why didn't you just divorce him? I was going to. Had the papers drawn up, evidence compiled, everything ready. Lisa's laugh was bitter. Then he came home and said he wanted a trial separation to work on himself. Said he'd realized he wasn't ready for marriage, needed time to figure out what he wanted. Let me guess. What he wanted was my wife. Among others, but Julia seems to be the front runner for wife number 2. Lisa sipped her coffee, her wedding ring catching the diner's fluorescent light. I thought you deserved to know before you wasted any more years. I appreciate that, really. But why are you telling me this now? Lisa's smile was sharp, predatory. Because I want to destroy him. Not just divorce him, destroy him. His reputation, his business, his relationships, everything. And I think you want the same thing. She wasn't wrong. The divorce proceedings were moving smoothly. Margaret Patterson was efficient and thorough. But it felt incomplete. Julia and Travis were already playing house, posting happy couple photos on social media, acting like they were some romantic success story instead of 2 cheating a-holes who'd blown up their families. What did you have in mind? Public exposure. Complete humiliation. I want everyone in this town to know exactly what kind of man Travis Jordan is and what kind of woman Julia Dunham is. Lisa opened a tablet and showed me a detailed plan. Photos, videos, social media posts, even a timeline of events. She'd been planning this for months. There's a town festival next weekend. Music, food vendors, the whole community comes out. Travis is supposed to be there with his real estate booth, drumming up business. And that's where we make our move. Public, permanent, devastating. I should have said no. Should have told her that revenge was a waste of time, that moving on was healthier, that I didn't want to sink to their level. Instead, I said, what do you need me to do? We spent 2 hours planning. Lisa had thought of everything, timing, logistics, legal considerations, even backup plans if something went wrong. She was thorough, methodical, and absolutely ruthless. I was impressed. One more thing, she said as we prepared to leave. What about your daughter? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Kayla had been calling and texting for days, leaving voicemails that I deleted without listening to. Julia had tried to use her as a go-between, sending messages about how daddy's little girl missed me and wanted to talk. What about her? She's going to be collateral damage. When this all comes out, when everyone knows the whole story, she's going to face consequences too. Are you okay with that? I thought about Kayla hugging Travis, telling him she wished he was her father. I thought about the years of bedtime stories, school plays, father-daughter dances, all the moments that had meant everything to me and apparently nothing to her. She made her choice, I said. Now she gets to live with it. Lisa nodded approvingly. Good, because once we do this, there's no going back, for any of them. The festival was perfect. Sunny, crowded, everyone in town gathered in Memorial Park for food, music, and community spirit. I arrived early, found a good vantage point near the bandstand, and watched the crowd gather. Travis had set up his real estate booth near the main entrance, complete with balloons, flyers, and a banner advertising, "Jordan Properties, your dreams, our expertise." He was working the crowd like a politician, shaking hands, slapping backs, playing the role of successful businessman and pillar of the community. Julia was there too, playing the supportive girlfriend, handing out flyers and smiling at potential clients. She'd dressed carefully, sundress, sandals, hair perfectly styled, the picture of respectability. At exactly 2 p.m., Lisa's plan went into motion. The festival had hired a DJ who'd set up a sound system and large screen for announcements and community videos. Lisa had convinced him that she had a special presentation about local businesses and community values. Ladies and gentlemen, the DJ announced, we have a special presentation from one of our longtime residents about the importance of family values in our community. The crowd gathered around the screen, curious and expectant. Travis looked pleased, probably thought it was some kind of business promotion. The video started innocently enough. Photos of Cedar Falls families, local businesses, community events. Lisa's voice narrated, our town is built on trust, commitment, and family values. We believe in honoring our promises, supporting our neighbors, and setting good examples for our children. I watched Travis's face as the tone of the video began to shift. Confusion, then concern, then dawning horror as he realized what was happening. But sometimes, Lisa continued, people in our community fail to live up to these values. Sometimes they break their promises, betray their families, and set terrible examples for our children. The screen filled with photos of Travis and Julia, at restaurants and hotel parking lots, entering and leaving my house. The crowd began to murmur, recognizing the faces. Travis Jordan, owner of Jordan Properties, has been having an affair with Julia Dunham, a married woman with a teenage daughter. This affair has been going on for over 6 months, conducted in the Dunham family home while Mr. Dunham was at work. The murmur became a roar. People were pointing, staring, pulling out phones to record the spectacle. I saw Julia's face go white, saw Travis frantically trying to push through the crowd toward the DJ booth. But Lisa wasn't finished. This affair has destroyed 2 families and corrupted a teenage girl who has been encouraged to reject her father in favor of her mother's lover. The following video was recorded on security cameras in the Dunham home. The screen filled with footage from our living room. Julia and Travis on our couch, edited to show just enough to make the situation clear without being pornographic. Then Kayla's entrance, her casual greeting, her hug with Travis, and finally the words that had destroyed my world. I wish you were my dad instead of Eric. The crowd erupted. Shouts of anger, disgust, disbelief. Someone threw a cup at Travis's real estate booth. Someone else started chanting, shame, shame, shame. I watched Julia and Travis try to escape through the crowd, saw people blocking their path, pointing fingers, shouting accusations. Kayla was there too, her face red with humiliation, tears streaming down her cheeks as her friends and classmates witnessed her betrayal of her father played out on a giant screen. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her, almost. Then I remembered her smile as she hugged Travis, her cheerful voice as she wished for a different father, and the sympathy evaporated. Lisa appeared beside me, watching the chaos with satisfaction. How do you feel? I thought about it. Julia was ruined, her reputation destroyed, her job probably forfeit, her social circle collapsed. Travis's business was finished. Who would trust a realtor who couldn't even honor his own marriage vows? And Kayla would have to live with the consequences of her choices, just like the rest of us. I feel, I said slowly, like justice has been served. The crowd was still shouting as Julia, Travis and Kayla fled the festival, their heads down, their dignity in tatters. They'd wanted to replace me, to erase me from their lives like I'd never mattered. Now everyone in town knew exactly what they'd done, and exactly what kind of people they really were. Best birthday present I ever got, I told Lisa, watching them disappear into the parking lot. She laughed, the sound sharp and satisfied. Happy birthday, Eric. Hope it was worth the wait. It was. Every humiliating, devastating second of it. The aftermath of the festival was swift and brutal. By Monday morning, Julia had been fired from the insurance company. Something about moral turpitude and representing the company's values. Travis's real estate license was under review by the state board, and 3 of his biggest clients had already canceled their contracts. But the best part was watching their support system crumble. Mike and Sarah Chen, who'd lectured me about being too harsh, suddenly stopped returning Julia's calls. The PTA mothers who'd whispered about marriage troubles now crossed the street to avoid her at the grocery store. Even Travis's high school buddies, who'd thought the whole thing was hilarious, went quiet when their own wives started asking uncomfortable questions. Turns out adultery isn't so funny when everyone knows about it, Dave observed, reading the local newspaper's coverage of the festival incident. Listen to this. Community leaders express concern about the erosion of family values and the impact on local children. I was packing the last of my belongings from the house Julia and I had shared. Margaret Patterson had negotiated a quick settlement. I kept my retirement accounts, my car, and half the equity in the house. Julia kept the house itself, along with the mortgage payments she couldn't afford without my income. Any word from Kayla? Dave asked. I held up my phone, showing 17 unread voicemails and 43 text messages. She's been trying to reach me for a week. I haven't listened to any of them. Maybe you should. She's still your daughter, man. Is she? I opened one of the text messages at random. Dad, please call me back. I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. Mom made me say those things. Please don't hate me. I deleted it without reading the rest. She had plenty of chances to tell me the truth, Dave. Instead, she chose to help plan my replacement. That's not something you do by accident. Dave shrugged. Your call, but someday you might regret not giving her a chance to explain. Maybe, but today isn't that day. My phone rang. Lisa Jordan. Turn on Channel 7, she said without preamble. Local news. You're gonna love this. I found the remote and switched to the local news station. The anchor was interviewing someone I recognized, Mrs. Patterson from down the street. The same woman who'd called Julia a cold fish at the grocery store. The whole neighborhood knew something was wrong, Mrs. Patterson was saying. Strange cars in the driveway during the day, that girl acting out, poor Eric working all hours while his wife was carrying on. We all feel terrible that we didn't say something sooner. The reporter nodded sympathetically. And what's your response to those who say the community's reaction has been too harsh? Mrs. Patterson's expression hardened. Too harsh? That woman destroyed her family, corrupted her own daughter, and made a mockery of marriage vows. If anything, we haven't been harsh enough. Actions have consequences, and it's about time that people like Julia Dunham learn that. I laughed out loud. Mrs. Patterson had never liked Julia. Too uppity, too concerned with appearances, but now she was positioning herself as the moral conscience of the neighborhood. There's more, Lisa said. Check Travis's Facebook page. I opened Facebook on my phone. Travis's real estate page had been flooded with negative reviews and comments. But more interesting was his personal page, which now showed his relationship status as single and featured a long, rambling post about learning from mistakes and taking time to focus on personal growth. He dumped her, I said, reading between the lines, yesterday. Apparently being publicly humiliated that wasn't part of his plan for their grand romance. Who would have thought? I scrolled through the comments on Travis's post. Most were negative, but a few were supportive. People talking about second chances and forgiveness. One comment stood out. Julia Dunham, I can't believe you're abandoning me now. After everything I gave up for you. After what we put our families through. You promised me we'd be together. Travis had replied, I think it's best if we don't communicate for a while. I need space to figure things out. He's throwing her under the bus, I told Lisa. Of course he is. Travis Jordan has always been a coward. The minute things got difficult, he ran, just like he did in high school when things got serious with other girls. I thought about Julia, alone in our house with a mortgage she couldn't afford, her job gone, her daughter traumatized, her lover disappeared. 6 months ago, she'd had everything. A stable marriage, a comfortable life, a family that loved her. Now she had nothing. I should have felt sorry for her, should have felt some sympathy for the woman I'd once loved enough to marry. Instead, I felt nothing but satisfaction. "There's one more thing," Lisa said. "I got a call from my lawyer this morning. Travis wants to reconcile. Apparently, being publicly humiliated has made him realize how much he values our marriage. Are you going to take him back?" Lisa's laugh was sharp and cold. "What do you think?" "I think Travis Jordan is about to learn that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt." "Exactly. I filed for divorce this morning. By the time I'm finished with him, he'll be lucky to afford a studio apartment and a bus pass." We talked for a few more minutes, comparing notes on our respective legal proceedings, sharing updates on our former spouses' continued downfall. It felt good to talk to someone who understood, someone who'd been through the same betrayal and chosen the same response. After I hung up, I sat in my empty house, my former house, and thought about the past month. 4 weeks ago, I'd been a married father celebrating his birthday with his family. Tonight, I was a divorced man preparing to start over in a new apartment across town. The old Eric would have been devastated, would have begged Julia to come back, would have forgiven Kayla immediately, would have tried to rebuild what they'd destroyed. But the old Eric had been naive, had believed in loyalty, commitment, and family bonds, had trusted the people he loved to love him back. The new Eric knew better. My phone buzzed with another text from Kayla. "Dad, I saw the news. Everyone at school is talking about it. I'm so embarrassed. Please call me. I need you." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. She needed me now. When her world was falling apart, when her friends were whispering about her, when her mother's choices had consequences for her too. But where had she been when I needed her? When I was working overtime to pay for her car, her clothes, her college fund, when I was coaching her teams and attending her school events and trying to be the father she deserved, she'd been wishing I was someone else. I finished packing and loaded the last box into my truck. Tomorrow I'd start my new life in my new apartment with my new understanding of how the world really worked. Some people might call it bitter, might say I was holding grudges, refusing forgiveness, letting anger consume me. Those people had never watched their family plan their replacement on their birthday. As I drove away from the house where I'd spent 17 years of my life, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Not happiness exactly, but a calm certainty that I'd done the right thing. Julia, Travis, and Kayla had made their choices. They'd chosen betrayal over loyalty, lies over truth, selfishness over family. Now they got to live with those choices, just like I was living with mine. The difference was, I could sleep at night knowing I'd never betrayed anyone who trusted me. They couldn't say the same. 6 months later, I heard through the small-town gossip network that Julia had lost the house to foreclosure and moved back in with her parents. Travis was working at a car dealership in the next town over, his real estate career finished. Kayla was seeing a therapist and had asked several mutual acquaintances to reach out to me on her behalf. I ignored them all. Some bridges, once burned, were meant to stay that way. And sometimes that was exactly how it should be.